In late August 1944, the German High Command in East Prussia believed they had already won the Battle of France, not on the battlefield, but on paper. Their calculations were sound, their logic unassailable. No army in history had ever sustained a mechanized advance of 400 miles over shattered infrastructure without collapsing from logistical exhaustion. Patton's Third Army, racing east at 60 miles a day, should have stopped. It did not. And the reason reveals not a miracle, but a revolution in the nature of war itself. The Wehrmacht's confidence wasn't arrogance. It was experience, forged in the frozen steppes of Russia. During Operation Barbarossa in 1941, German panzer divisions had advanced over 600 miles in 6 weeks, only to grind to a halt 20 miles short of Moscow. The cause was not Soviet resistance, but logistics. Fuel trucks ran dry. Spare parts vanished. Horses, still the backbone of German supply, died by the tens of thousands in sub-zero temperatures. By December 1941, the Wehrmacht possessed fewer than 30% of the trucks it had started with. Rail conversion teams worked 18-hour days to adapt Soviet broad-gauge tracks to German standards, but progress was measured in miles per week, not per day. This trauma shaped German military doctrine. Logistics was not a supporting function, it was the ceiling of operational possibility. As General der Infanterie Friedrich von Mellenthin wrote in his post-war memoir Panzer Battles, the Panzer spearheads were like lightning, brilliant, fast, and gone. But lightning does not feed an army. By August 1944, that lesson seemed confirmed. Allied forces had broken out of Normandy and were advancing faster than any mechanized army in history. Patton's Third Army alone covered 400 miles in 30 days, an average of 13 miles per day, but with bursts exceeding 60. German intelligence meticulously tracked consumption. A U.S. infantry division required 700 tons of supplies daily. An armored division, 1,000 tons. With 12 divisions under his command, Patton needed roughly 12,000 tons per day, delivered over roads cratered by bombing, bridges blown by retreating German engineers, and rail lines still unusable. General Oberst Alfred Jodl, chief of operations for the OKW, reviewed the figures on August 20th and declared, "Even if the Americans had unlimited trucks, which they do not, and perfect roads, which they do not, and zero mechanical failures, which is impossible, they still could not sustain this advance beyond another 48 hours. Physical law cannot be suspended by industry." To the German mind, war was a contest of discipline, efficiency, and precision. Waste was failure. Redundancy was weakness. Every vehicle was maintained, every drop of fuel accounted for, every movement concealed. Their entire system reflected Prussian military tradition, order, hierarchy, and economy of means. They could not conceive of a system that treated waste not as failure, but as a strategic asset. On August 25, 1944, in a commandeered chateau near Le Mans, Lieutenant Colonel Laurent Alberts of the Motor Transport Service stood before a room of skeptical officers from COMZ, the communications zone, responsible for Allied logistics in Europe. The situation was dire. Standard supply methods had collapsed. Rail lines from Cherbourg were still being repaired. Scheduled convoys moved too slowly. Depot-to-front distribution couldn't keep pace with Patton's tempo. Alberts proposed a radical solution: abandon all conventional doctrine. Create 2 parallel, one-way highways stretching from the Normandy beaches to the front, 300 miles east. Designate them exclusively for military transport. Run trucks 20 hours a day. Abandon blackout discipline. Enforce minimum speeds of 25 miles per hour. Allow no stops except for fuel or mechanical failure. And move a minimum of 12,500 tons per day. The name came from American railroad slang. A red ball was a priority freight shipment that cleared all other traffic. Now it would apply to war. This was not improvisation. It was industrial logic applied to warfare. American factories had spent 2 decades perfecting mass production, interchangeable parts, assembly lines, planned obsolescence. The GMC CCKW 2.5-ton truck, the Deuce and a Half, was built for exactly this purpose. Over 560,000 were produced during the war. Its engine, transmission, and axles were standardized across models, allowing mechanics to swap parts in minutes. Breakdowns weren't disasters, they were expected. Where the Germans maintained vehicles with artisanal care, Americans consumed them. Where Germans dispersed convoys to avoid air attack, Americans concentrated flow to maximize throughput. And where German doctrine demanded secrecy, American confidence lay in velocity, the belief they could move faster than the enemy could react. Within 36 hours, the plan was operational. By August 26, 5,958 trucks rolled east from Cherbourg and St. Lo. Within a week, they delivered 89,939 tons, exceeding the target. Daily averages reached 12,848 tons. The system worked not despite its apparent chaos, but because of its scale, redundancy, and relentless rhythm. Of the 23,000 drivers who served on the Red Ball Express, approximately 75% were African American soldiers, most assigned to quartermaster truck companies because the War Department, adhering to segregationist policies, deemed them unfit for combat. These men came from towns across the Jim Crow's South: Birmingham, Memphis, rural Georgia. At home, they were denied the right to vote, sit at lunch counters, or ride in the front of buses. Yet in France, they operated the single most critical logistical artery of the European war. Their contribution transcended tonnage. It exposed a profound contradiction at the heart of American democracy, and a quiet refutation of Nazi racial ideology. While Hitler's regime preached Aryan supremacy, these drivers, many of them teenagers, proved that competence, courage, and endurance knew no color. They painted slogans on their cabs. Hitler, here we come, Detroit to Berlin Express, Patton's blood bank. They developed their own traffic culture. Slower trucks pulled off immediately. Breakdowns were shoved into ditches. Any vehicle under 20 miles per hour was treated as an obstacle. They drove for 72 hours straight, sustained by coffee, cigarettes, and government-issued Benzedrine. Accidents claimed 300 lives during the operation's 82-day run. Yet desertion rates were near zero. Why? Because these men understood they were doing more than delivering shells. They were proving that the nation fighting for freedom abroad could not indefinitely deny it at home. As one driver later recalled, "We weren't just keeping Patton moving. We were showing the world what America could be, if it ever lived up to its own words." The Germans saw the trucks, but missed the true enabler, fuel. While the Red Ball moved ammunition and rations, a parallel, invisible system ensured gasoline never ran out. Operation PLUTO, pipeline under the ocean, was one of the war's most audacious engineering feats. Conceived in 1942, it involved laying flexible, lead-line pipelines across the English Channel. Two types were developed: HAIS, Hartley Anglo-Iranian Siemens, a 3-inch cable-like pipe, and Hamel, a sturdier steel version. By August 12, 1944, the first PLUTO line was pumping 150,000 gallons per day from the Isle of Wight to Cherbourg. By September, output exceeded 1 million gallons daily. This solved the Allies' most critical vulnerability. A single Sherman tank consumed 0.5 miles per gallon on roads, far worse cross-country. An armored division burned 150,000 gallons of gasoline daily when advancing. Without secure fuel, Patton's tanks were inert. PLUTO changed that. Forward fuel depots were established every 25 miles along the Red Ball route. Tanker trucks ran their own convoys, guaranteeing no vehicle waited more than 10 minutes to refuel. The result defied German comprehension. On September 1, 1944, the U.S. 4th Armored Division advanced 35 miles by noon, halted for a 20-minute resupply, during which Red Ball trucks delivered fuel, ammunition, and rations, and then drove another 32 miles that afternoon. A 67-mile day. German doctrine, based on World War I and their own Eastern Front experience, assumed 20 to 30 miles was the absolute sustainable limit for mechanized forces. America didn't break the rules. It rendered them obsolete. By early September, German reconnaissance units began reporting something unprecedented. From positions overlooking Route Nationale 154, observers noted continuous columns of vehicles, headlights blazing at night, spacing so tight that one disabled truck should have halted the entire flow. Yet the column never stopped. Vehicles pass at 30-second intervals, day and night, reported General Lieutenant Edgar Feuchtinger of the 21st Panzer Division. They do not conceal themselves, do not disperse, do not adhere to any regulations we understand. It is not military science. It is mass production applied to warfare. Captured German logistics officers, when shown red ball delivery logs, initially dismissed them as propaganda. But radio intercepts confirmed the reports. Even more unsettling, American units broadcast their locations in the clear, without encryption. They were so confident in their ability to move faster than the Wehrmacht could react that secrecy was deemed unnecessary. Field Marshal Walter Model, appointed commander of Army Group B in August, reviewed the intelligence with growing dread. In a private letter to his wife, he wrote, "If these figures are accurate, we do not face a superior army, but a superior civilization. They waste resources because they have infinite resources. We cannot defeat this with tactics." General Heinz Guderian, the father of Blitzkrieg, refused to believe the initial reports. "No armored force can advance 60 miles daily for a week," he insisted at the Wolf's Lair. "Mechanical failures alone would prevent it." Only when intercepted American radio traffic confirmed unit positions did he fall silent. His memoirs later admitted, "We had mastered the art of the rapid strike. But the Americans had mastered the art of the endless advance." This was more than a logistical triumph. It was a civilizational statement. Germany's war machine was brilliant but brittle, dependent on elite leadership, scarce resources, and rigid doctrine. America's was resilient, redundant, and scalable. In 1944, U.S. factories produced 2.4 million trucks, more than all other nations combined. Germany produced 128,000. The U.S. built a Liberty ship every 42 days. By 1943, they were launching one every 5 days. This wasn't just industrial capacity, it was a different philosophy of war. As Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto had warned Japan in 1941, "You cannot invade the United States. There would be a machine in every garage." The Red Ball Express proved him right, not through battleships or bombers, but through 6,000 trucks and a pipeline under the sea. The strategic implications were immediate and devastating. German defensive plans assumed the Allies would pause to consolidate supply lines, a window to regroup at the Seine, then the Rhine. But the Red Ball eliminated that pause. By September 11th, U.S. patrols stood on the German border near Aachen. Paris was liberated on August 25th. The entire German position in France collapsed not from a single decisive battle, but from the cumulative pressure of unrelenting advance, sustained by a river of material flowing eastward day and night. When German generals surrendered in May 1945, many cited logistics as the decisive factor. General der Panzertruppe Otto von Manchefeld, interrogated at Bad Mondorf, stated plainly, "When we understood your logistics capacity, we knew the war was lost. You could supply armies faster than we could destroy them. The Red Ball Express was a weapon against which we had no defense." Field Marshal Albert Kesselring, one of Germany's most respected commanders, was asked what astonished him most about American forces. His answer: "Not your tanks, not your planes, but your trucks. The Red Ball Express showed us that you had militarized your entire society's production capability. We were fighting your factories, not just your soldiers." The Red Ball Express operated for 82 days, from August 25 to November 16, 1944. In that time, it delivered 412,193 tons of supplies over 3.5 million vehicle miles. It ended not because it failed, but because it succeeded so completely that permanent infrastructure, rail lines, pipelines, inland ports, made it redundant. Its legacy, however, endured. The U.S. Army institutionalized its lessons, high volume, continuous flow logistics became doctrine. In Korea, Vietnam, and Desert Storm, the principle remained sustained tempo through throughput, not perfection. But the deeper truth lies beyond tactics. The Red Ball Express marked the moment warfare ceased to be decided by generalship alone, and became a contest of societal throughput. It revealed that in the industrial age, the factory floor is as decisive as the battlefield. The German generals were not wrong in their arithmetic. They were wrong in their worldview. They saw logistics as a bottleneck. America saw it as the battlefield. And on that battlefield, paved with GMC trucks, powered by pipelines, and driven by men history nearly forgot, the war was decided long before the guns fell silent.